Oh, we're going to keep these going, friends. We're going to keep these going because I know you love the interviews. You want to know something cool before we get started? Before I bring in my special guest, interview podcasts do better than my solo shows every single time. Y'all love hearing conversations, and I understand that. And I'm going to bring you a good-ass conversation today. I've been at the Move Miami, like I've been saying, interviewing some dope-ass people. And the guy recording us had this unique swag about him. We got talking after a show, and I don't know how it came about, but I said, homie, I got an interview, and he was down as hell. My boy, Jay Tyler, welcome to the Justin Erie podcast.
What's going on, brother? What's going on?
Kicking, bro. Kicking. I can't believe we made it happen, bro.
We're here.
We're here.
We talked about it. And you know what's funny is when we had that original conversation, we went off like on a tangent. We were talking about spirituality.
Yeah.
We were talking about creativity being like the most authentic voice of God.
Oh my gosh.
And like I knew immediately, I knew off the rip, I was like, if we got on a podcast and we just got going, we're gonna drop fire.
And I love how you just say that. You know, some people are like, oh, I don't know. It's like, no, I know. It's gonna be good.
That's the funniest part about knowing. Like faith is the ultimate act of knowing, right?
Yeah.
And it's knowing in spite of lack of information, lack of physical information, lack of evidence, right? And
That's
my
so
faith,
good.
especially this year, here in the studio, we host a men's
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so everyone listening. We're in the studio in Miami, one of the best podcast studios in the 305, and they have an Instagram. They have they post a lot of content. But I saw on your Instagram and the guy who started, the move, which we might get into in the episode, and y'all had like an event here on Sundays, and it looked like a bunch of men together. It had like a spiritual vibe to it. Tell me more about it. What's going on here?
So Drew, the owner of the studio and my good personal friend, me and Drew have been friends for about I want to say 8 years now.
All right.
And Drew started a men's mental health group specifically for men because we felt like, guys don't get enough opportunity to come together and really say their piece. Like we're out in the world being forced to be strong, being forced to be stoic, being forced to be silent about the things that we're going through. So once a month we have a bunch of guys. It's mainly a Christian mental health, a Christian men's group, but we don't close it off to anybody. Like if you're a guy, come through, you're more than welcome. We do it first Saturday of every month.
Is there a leader to it, or is it just kind of we all get together?
It's kind of freeform.
Okay.
Drew will usually lead us in, but from the time that Drew leads us in, we'll just go around and just let everybody have time to say their piece. Sometimes we're here until midnight. Sometimes we're here until 1 a.m.
Wait, it starts at what time?
It starts at 5 p.m. We got food, we got everybody here, but
So it's just a bunch of guys in a room, and it's like we're gonna talk life.
We're gonna talk life. We're gonna talk business. Everybody in there is an entrepreneur to some degree.
Is it you just go around one by one, like talking?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you share your shit. Let me comment.
I'll listen, and me personally, I like to start off the group because it'll go from Drew, then it'll go to me. I like to start off the group just going in on letting guys know you don't have to hide the really personal stuff that you're going through. You don't have to hide the, my baby mama this or whatever. Whatever's going on, let it out.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that much opportunity to do that out in the world, right?
Dude, how unique is this group? Straight up to the listeners. I mean, let's just stay here for a little bit because I think this is important. Guys definitely have pressure on them in this world to perform.
Immense pressure.
Especially in a city like Miami. And it's not that you shouldn't want it. I'm kind of glad it's like that. It makes me rise up. But where do you find rest? Where do you sharpen your sword? Where are you healing? Because that's part of it as well.
I'm so glad you brought up the sharpen your sword analogy because the biggest thing about men's group is iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, that's it. It's Proverbs.
And
bro.
we're a bunch of guys on our purpose, and it's an accountability group more than anything. So in the group, everybody has their word of the year, right?
Oh, okay.
And my word of the year, for example, is visibility, because I walked through life a lot of the time feeling invisible. And so my challenge to myself this year was to be visible and to make myself heard and to make my word my bond, right?
Dude, I know we're camping a lot of places, but this is how I like to do it and just set up little fires and then we come back to them. But talk to me about what it feels like to be invisible and what you mean, because I've really never heard a guy say that in a podcast or really in person, because it's a unique word. What do you mean by that? Like, how does that play out in your life?
Just the feeling of being invisible is kind of the feeling of lack of agency,
Okay.
lack of control of your outcomes. Maybe you can always control your input, but you can never control what you're going to get out of life, and feeling like you're powerless to what the world is going to throw at you and what your outcomes are going to be, regardless of the amount of effort that you put in. Walking into rooms and just feeling like, a small fish in a really big pond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Miami is the kind of place where it's a pretty big pond, but there's some damn big fish out here.
Yeah.
And you really if you want to be heard, if you want to be seen, if you want to be respected, you have to stake your claim and you have to stand on like your pillars as a man, right? And for a lot of time before I started my business, which we can get into that later, getting into the whole film and production space.
Of course, yeah.
Before starting my business, I would say that I was being bent by the whims of bigger fish in the pond.
Okay, and that's that whole invisible thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have the agency to be
Yeah.
like, actually, no, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna respectfully disagree, even if it costs me this job, even if it costs me some money, even if it costs me. I didn't have the ability to make those calls, and so now being visible isn't just about being like seen in the physical sense. It's more about having the agency to stake my claim and
do you
to
mean by
stand
agency?
on. Agency is like, at least what I mean when I say it.
Yeah.
Agency is your being able to stand on your own principles.
Okay.
Right.
I've never heard it used like that.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah.
So being able to stand on your principles and say, you know what, regardless of how this is going to affect me, I'm going to stand on what I believe in, no matter who I piss off in this room, no matter what it means for me going down the road. I believe in this and I'm going to stand by that. Which is, a big thing about men's group is a lot of us are Christian men, right? And being able to walk in our faith proudly. I think Christians are one of the weakest groups of like in any religion. Like
Yeah.
if you go to like my cousin is Muslim, right?
Okay.
And Muslims stand on business, bro. Like if there's one thing I'm gonna give to them, one thing you're not gonna do is disrespect my religion.
Yeah.
And as Christians, I'm not gonna say we like to, but
Yeah.
we be letting people walk on the Bible.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should.
Yeah.
I think that, we need to stand more proudly and more loudly in our faith. But yeah,
good.
that's a big part.
So invisible, becoming visible, right? And this word that you spoke, you have no shame speaking it out in front of all these men here at the Move when you have it on Sundays. What enables you or empowers you in your faith, right? Because I like this theme, to want to be visible. Like what is it about? How do you have a desire to be visible? How does your faith help that?
I think it's a lot about value and self-worth.
Okay.
I think a lot of feeling invisible was feeling less than,
Yeah.
and feeling like my value was less than the other people that I was surrounding myself with, so that I would shrink myself to the standards of whatever my surrounding situation. A lot of times I would describe it to people as being like a chameleon, right?
Yeah.
Shrinking my own desires and my own values to mold into whatever scenarios I would find myself in.
Okay.
Whereas now on the flip side of that coin, now it's like, no. I'm standing so firmly in my values and in what I believe in that I will walk into other rooms and make other people feel uncomfortable.
Wow.
Because that's just what I have to do.
Yeah.
I have to do and I have to be as a man, like learning to navigate this world that is, as I've found now in my 30s, incredibly unkind.
Yeah.
The world doesn't give a fuck about
Yeah,
you, dude,
I know,
at
bro.
all.
Just chew you up.
They'll chew you up, they'll spit you out. So you have to be, and again, we go back to iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
You got to be iron.
And here's the thing with a lot of men is like they know that you're not gonna go around saying that the world is a kind and good place that's gonna embrace you and comfort you.
No.
Right? We find out the opposite, but then two things happen. You either get like super aggressive, like you become an asshole, or you get cynical, right? And it sounds like you're taking the route of, no, I want to be visible and be strong, but like you have a incredible energy of kindness about you. And that's a unique man.
And I think kindness, when you start to think about like how prevalent it is in our society to say that the nice guy finishes last, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can't be nice in this world. The world's an unkind place. You got to be, like I was saying, you got to stand in whatever frame that is for you, your masculine frame.
Yep.
But I think kindness and niceness are not the same thing, right? As a quote unquote nice guy, you will, again, like I was saying earlier, shrink yourself to make other people comfortable. As a kind man, I'm not shrinking myself, but I'm also becoming a beacon for other people to then see the energy that I put out and want to emulate that within themselves, right?
Yeah.
So kindness for me, it's generosity. Being generous with your energy, being generous with your resources, being generous with your time, being generous with, the amount of attention that you're willing to give to people to make them feel heard and to make them feel seen, right? So kindness to me, it means generosity.
Yeah.
And I'm a very generous person. Even when I was generous when I had nothing. Like I was generous when I had no money in the bank, no job to speak of. I was freelancing as a videographer, had no clients at the time. But if someone called me and needed my time, I'm there. I got you.
Yeah.
What do you need?
Yeah. It comes natural to you.
It's just how I was raised. Because I'm from my whole family's from Jamaica. And in Jamaica, like
that's cool as shit, bro.
everything is Irie. Like
Everything is what?
Irie.
All right, break that down.
Irie is like my patois accent gonna start coming out.
Yeah.
When you say everything is Irie, like it's almost like saying everything is all right. Everything is everything.
I've heard this.
You know what I mean? Everything is everything. We live a very like Jamaican culture is rooted in very like mellow energies.
Yeah.
Right. Just take it one day at a time, one step at a time. Let life flow.
How much of like, because I love that you identify with like Christian faith and you're part of a men's group, which I would love to join and be
You
a
are
part
more
of
than welcome.
if you're cool.
I
man.
will see you at the next one.
Yeah,
I'll be adding you to the calendar
down,
for that.
bro, down. WhatsApp group, I'm down. But how much of like, because I've always like tried to understand faith traditions, and people listen to my podcast, they know I'm hella spiritual, hella into that. But I've always felt like when it came to Jamaican culture, there was like this easiness, right? Like in terms of like relax, breathe, rest. Like I think about Jesus's teaching of do not worry. When I think about literally Jamaica, maybe it's the music, but that's just kind of the vibe I get. But how much of your upbringing and culture was relatable to you when you encountered the faith? Was there any crossings there?
Oof. How much time we got? No, I'm just joking. So I was actually brought up Catholic.
Okay.
Right. So
In Jamaica?
No, here in Miami.
okay.
I'm born and raised in Miami, but like very, very Jamaican community.
Got it.
Like my dad is first generation Jamaican, grew up in Kingston.
All right.
My mom's from Toronto, but her family is also Jamaican. They're Jamaican transplants to Toronto.
Okay.
So like my whole family was just yad.
Yeah.
Like that's as much as I could say about it. But we grew up Catholic, and the funny part about growing up Catholic is that I actually had a really bad relationship with religion. Okay. I had a horrible relationship with organized religion and faith because I don't even know if I want to say this on camera, but whatever, I'm gonna let it rock. My grandmother was a very like holier than thou type of person. And that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way as someone who like in my immediate household, like between my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my immediate household, we all grew up on kindness, but there was something in the way that, at least in the Catholic Church, that certain people higher in the church hierarchy or whatever, they would kind of just give you this like holier than thou energy and like it was kind of it never rubbed me the right way. So I ended up for a lot of my life running away from religion, running away from spirituality in and of itself, just being like, I know there is a God, but I don't want to put a name to it. I mean, all of these, if you look at all of these religions, they all break down to basically the same core tenets. Like if you go to Muslim faith, Jewish faith, Christian faith, Buddhism, if you break all of them down into like just their core tenets, it's really just a book telling you not to be an asshole, right? Just be like being completely honest. Just don't be a dickhead.
Yeah.
And you'll do all right in life.
Yeah.
Which is what my understanding of it was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until actually very recently. It wasn't until my cousin passed away. My cousin Kyle, he was my personal trainer. Wow. And during the pandemic, he got me back in my gym life. He got me back in my gym life and got me started on just my health and wellness journey.
That's great.
And he was a pilot. And so one day I get a call that him and his dad, they were flying a charter plane to the Bahamas, and I got a call that the plane went down. And my uncle, his dad survived, but Kyle didn't make it. And Kyle and his brother Salim, they're Muslim. Their mother was Muslim. Their father was a Christian, but they practiced their faith because they were raised more by their mother.
Okay.
And I just watched how rooted in faith that family became, and how it I would have been destroyed having seen what my uncle had seen.
Rooted in their Muslim faith.
Yeah, rooted in their faith, how it anchored them during that hard time.
Wow.
And being able to see, my uncle and my cousin Salim, I would have been destroyed by the situation that they were going through. Like if that had been my little brother, I might not be sitting with you in this chair.
Yeah.
And being able to see what faith did for them, I was like, you know what, let me get back into this. Let me really start exploring my spirituality.
It was the inspiration of someone's faith that gave you faith.
Exactly. And
That's
then once
beautiful.
I picked up a Bible and I started coming to men's group, and I noticed that I was being surrounded by faith on all sides. Like Christianity and the Bible were calling me back in almost a way of synchronicity, where everywhere I went, somebody would bring up my faith, and I was like, that's odd. You've never talked to me about that before.
Yeah.
So my little brother, never seen my brother interested in church, never seen him interested. And one day I go into his room just to check up on him, and he's leading a Bible study in his room. I was like, what do you mean? I thought he was when I asked him, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm leading Bible study. I was like, I thought he was joking. I was like, haha, very funny.
Yeah.
And then I look, and he's like, oh yeah, we just finished the book of Ephesians. I was like, dog, you've read more of the Bible than I have. What are you talking about?
Damn.
You know what I mean?
Damn.
And
bro.
then coming back to men's group, and I sat down here in the studio one day, and you can't see it on camera here, but there's a little table behind us where Drew usually keeps his Bible. And I just decided to open up the Bible to a random page one day while I was in here in between clients. And I believe it was, God, I can't remember the specific verse, but it really just spoke to me in a very specific situation that I was going through at that time. And I was like, all right, I get it, Jesus. I hear the call. I'm gonna pick up my Bible. I'm gonna start reading again.
Wow, bro.
I'm gonna get to church. I'm gonna do my thing. And from that point forward, I just watched avenues start opening up in life. The studio's successful. I'm seeing personal success in my outside endeavors. My personal relationships are better. I'm not giving that to Christianity and my faith specifically, but I noticed that just walking in faith and not being afraid of life anymore.
Yeah.
Faith is the ultimate antithesis to fear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're able to walk in faith and you don't fear negative outcomes anymore, you should be wary of negative outcomes. You probably shouldn't go do something that's going to get you in trouble with the law, or do something that's going to impact your finances significantly. But if you can take risks in life and have faith that even if you fail, God's got your back, you'll be willing to take more risks. And what do we know in business? The more risk you're willing to take on, the more you'll succeed.
Man.
So like it bleeds into everything. It bleeds into everything we do.
It does. I love that you're seeing faith like that, because especially coming from like a family that you shared like with an upbringing that's like that, faith becomes one dimensional, and this is what we do here, and then there's my work life and my relationships and my family and money, and they're all like different. But I think the goal of healthy, good spirituality is to see the whole thing as one. It's all connected. And I think that's where society, and we were having this conversation, I think it was a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, where we feel like there's like a change and a shift in consciousness where more and more people are realizing the interconnectedness of all things. And I've spoken about this before. It's like, no, it's not just, it's connected to that, and that's connected to that.
It's so funny because the synchronicities that drive, like when you start really looking at stuff, like really paying attention, you'll know, like even the podcast you were doing last night, that guest that you had on your pod wasn't originally meant to be on the pod. You had somebody completely different lined up.
Yeah.
He just randomly happened to be in Miami at the right place, right time.
Yep.
And what told him to come to Miami?
He said he had like a hunch from his conscious.
And who's the voice? I don't know if you might believe the same thing, but your conscience, to me, that's when God's giving you a ring.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, you can call it so many different names, but I think it's God. But you can call it anything else. But what you can't disagree with is that it's something outside of you.
And if you just connect the dots and follow that timeline, he probably had that little hint from his conscience to come to Miami, 2 weeks ago? That led him to come here, go through whatever he was going through while he was here. He was about to leave. And then you hit him up and he changed his flight.
But I only hit him up because I had someone else cancel on me.
That's another thing. And y'all had to meet that day. There was no
meeting, and we had to have met at the gym, and then he got on the pod, and so whoever grew from that podcast was because of those synchronicities.
Exactly.
And then after that, we went to dinner at the Henry in Brickell, and bro, we had this conversation that was like better than the podcast. And he's like, dude, I feel like changed, and I know why I came to Miami. Like, that's so crazy how life happens.
And then even if you follow the breadcrumbs further than that, someone is going to listen to that episode, and it's going to inspire a very particular action in them. We can't name what that action is going to be because we can't tell the future, but that action is then going to breadcrumb its way. It's all butterfly effect, bro.
It is.
So like every action is purposeful.
Yep.
And if you're listening to your conscience, you're listening to that little voice in your head that tells you to take action, you're probably going to be moved in a direction that's going to lead you to those synchronicities, right?
Because sometimes, and I like calling them synchronicities, but I also like calling them loops. Because sometimes you can be out of alignment, we'll call it out of synchronicity, or in a negative loop. And you know what that feels like. And I know a lot of our listeners do too, where everything is just fucking up. And it's like, wait, is there a God? Right?
And you know what's going to be a key way for people to recognize that they're in a negative like feedback loop like that? They keep having to learn the same lesson over and over again.
Yeah, that's it.
And they're not passing that test. God will test you the same way a bunch of times before you get it right and you can move on to the next thing.
To get out of the loop.
To get out of that loop and get into a new positive feedback loop.
Yeah. I love how, I mean, this gets into like attraction, and are we bringing things into our life? And I don't really know how it works, and I don't have the desire to go into all the intricacies of it, but what it does let me believe, and this is maybe tied more into my faith, is that if this is true, then every moment is sacred.
Every single one. Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that beautiful? It's just, it's crazy. And it means that you can call it sacred, you can call it holy, you can call it all these different things, but they all not only have meaning, but they're holy, bro. They're sacred. Even the broken ones.
And that's why one of the most profound ways that you can be attacked, right, spiritually at least, is to take you out of being present minded. If you're distracted, it's easy for you to miss these moments that, like we said, are holy, are sacred.
Yeah.
If I'm distracted, if I'm disconnected from my higher consciousness, if I'm drinking, if I'm drugging, if I'm doing X, Y, and Z, I'm distracted by my phone, I'm distracted by this, I'm gonna miss something that was supposed to take me down a route that was gonna lead me to whatever action is a part of God's purpose for my life.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And the funny thing about God's purpose for your life is it doesn't matter when it's gonna happen. It doesn't matter when. For every distraction you hit, oh, all right, you might have just pushed it back 5 years. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. It could be you pushed it back 30 seconds. Could be you pushed it back 10 years.
Interesting.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? That's not up to me.
Yeah.
But if I'm not present, if I'm not here in the current moment, then I'm gonna miss out on something.
That's intriguing because to put the point together, every moment is holy only if you're present to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's around you, but you can't see it, and that means that there's things that we're missing now, and we need to wake up more and become more conscious and become more present to actually see what's in front of us. Yeah,
It's true.
and how do you? This is a good thought. Is how do you become more present? 21st century, bro. This postmodern, like highly technological world, and you're a creative director at The Move. You are consistently on screens. How does a man become more present?
You know, it's kind of fucked up in a certain way because I am a merchant of that which distracts.
Okay.
Like a lot of I'm going to walk that back a little bit because a lot of the content that we film in here is very similar to this. It's meant to be uplifting. It's meant to, hopefully someone's going to take some information away from this that is going to lead them down a more correct path. But it's very difficult to walk the line between, as a creative director and as, you know, I got my start doing documentary work, filming music videos, filming weddings, you name it. If it involves a camera, I've done it. Drone operator, whatever, anything you can think of. I've been doing it for 10 years. And one of the things, it's very difficult to walk the line between looking for inspiration in consuming content and then or just getting in the negative feedback loop of just consuming the content. Consuming just for consumption's sake.
Yeah.
So at least on the consumption side, when I'm, you know, looking at content or looking at the things that inspire me from other creators, which is plenty of them.
Yeah.
I'll shout a couple of them out. Shout out my boy Wo Adrian. Shout out Justin Aletsky. Y'all are my dogs. But yeah, just trying to walk that line between consuming with purpose and consuming just for consumption's sake is very, very difficult.
Because consuming for consumption's sake is literally like,
it's a form of escapism.
it has to be.
Just like drinking, just like doing drugs, just like anything.
It'd be like watching porn, but you're not lusting.
Yeah, but it's a different, it's a different
just
cardinal sin that you're committing the sin of sloth.
Yes.
So whereas porn might be lust, just mindless scrolling is sloth, right?
Sloth, bro.
And
That's great.
Man, it'll get you.
It will. So
it gets me often.
So you're talking about attentive scrolling inspiration.
I try to make sure, at least for me, I'm only following pages that I can gain some sort of insightful information or inspiration or maybe a new idea from.
Okay.
Like I follow a lot of filmmakers. I follow a lot of business-minded, you know, people whose content I can, you know, I might get an idea for a new SOP or something that I can import into the systems here in the studio. I might get an idea for a new offer that we can start creating so that we can, you know, do more and better things for our clients. Like we would have never gotten the idea for, you see this shot in the center where it's on the slider?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have never gotten that idea had it not been for seeing it done through somebody else's content. So like, being mindful in that way. But
Yeah.
to walk back to the question of just being more present, how are we more present in today in 2024? You and I both do a great job at this. It's being on top of your health, dude.
Yeah. That's a
Being
great
on top
point,
of your
bro.
health is a game changer. And it goes back to my cousin that passed away, Kyle. He was my personal trainer, and so he got me started on a workout regimen. And when he passed, I made a commitment to myself. I was like, I'm not missing any days of the gym this year. That was last year. And at
This is for this year. You're not
for last year.
For 23.
For
Okay.
23, yeah.
Okay.
So I made that commitment to myself, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna miss. Like Kyle would bust my ass if I missed any days of the gym. So I just decided I'm not missing. I'm only I'm still within his regimen. I go to the gym 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. But I didn't miss. If it's Monday through Friday, I don't care what's going on my schedule. I'm in there, and like, it created a discipline loop in me to be able to say, like, even on the days I don't feel like it, even on the days where I have no idea where it's going to fit into my schedule, I'm like, today's not the day. Today's not the day that I'm going to miss this. I refuse. And after a year's worth of today's not the day, I got to a year consistently in the gym. I went from 225 pounds to like 190.
Yeah.
Got my health back, got my body right. Now I'm just in a loop of like bulk cut.
Yeah.
But I mean, you see it. That's why I post it every day, because it's an accountability thing for
It
me.
is.
Like, if you don't see me post, that means I probably didn't make it. And if I didn't make it, I'm pissed off at me, because there's no one else for me to answer to about that.
Yeah. So health, actual purpose behind scrolling, and who you follow.
Purpose in general.
Yeah.
Purpose in general. Having an overarching purpose in your work, in your spirituality, in your
That makes you
relationships.
more present.
Absolutely. If you're doing something with a purpose, you're going to pay attention to every detail, because the outcome matters.
That's good.
If I'm building this business with a purpose in mind, if there's an end goal in mind for what we want this to become, then every step on the way to that purpose is planned out and there's intent behind it.
Yeah.
And you're not just gonna waddle your way to a 9-figure business. You got to be purposeful about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that, you got to be present. It's not even a question. You don't have a choice.
Yeah. I want to ask you, do you have times where you're unavailable when it comes to your phone?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I can't be. I'm really bad at it now. Like my girl will. She's gonna love this part of the podcast if she ever watches it. But I am terrible with the phone, dude. If it doesn't pertain to work between the hours of like 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., if it doesn't pertain to work, I'm probably not answering you. I apologize in advance to whoever be calling me or texting me between those times, between my friends, my family. I'm sorry. I'm in here doing not this, but I'm on the other side of the cameras. But you get the gist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm
No, this man
terrible
puts
at
in
it.
work. Don't worry, guys. He puts in freaking work. I see him back there. No, that's good, because I think I really think we live in, as one author says, in a world of massive. What's the word for like nuclear bombs? It's called the weapons of weapons of mass destruction, and this one author calls it the weapons of mass distraction.
Oof, that's so good.
I love that. Yeah.
That's so good.
And I think it's, as a creative, as someone who's really on social media a lot, like I have to go into airplane mode every single night before I go to sleep, so that when I wake up, there's no notifications. And then when I wake up, I'm able to spend time with God, reading, writing, prayer, meditation, and I have no temptation to go to my phone until that's complete.
That's a really good hack.
It
'Cause
feels so good.
You know what? I need to start implementing that, because what'll happen to me is I'll wake up and immediately I'm putting out fires. Like if there's anything that went wrong in the business, if I got our executive assistants calling, somebody needs to reschedule this,
Yeah.
somebody needs a refund here, somebody needs edits for this, yada 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 yada, and that's the first thing I see when I wake up and I'm already in a
You're
panic.
already in a work mode.
And
Yeah.
I'm pissed. I'm
And then you're
driving
pissed.
on the way to the studio. I'm
Yeah, you're all
pissed.
fucking shit. Yeah.
My whole energy is
That's how you get
off.
into a negative loop, though. Yeah.
My whole energy is off. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I got to start implementing that. I want to ask you a question
Yeah, please, bro.
about just being present in your life, right? Like, what does that look like for you specifically? Because I know your energy when you're here in the studio is very like calm. It's very laid back. You're really a receptacle for the energy of other people, and people are able to bounce off of you
For sure.
very easily, especially when you're hosting. What are your practices for being more present?
Yeah, well, I'll say that one that I said right there is very helpful. I love that you asked me this question. As a host, we rarely get asked questions, so
I'm about to turn this into my
I'm
podcast now.
pumped, bro. I'm pumped. No, but airplane mode before I go to sleep, clear out everything. You know how you can swipe up on iPhone and get rid of it. It just gives me peace, and I'm just like airplane mode. And I wake up early enough so that I can have that time. Because if you wake up at 8 and you're like in airplane mode, it's like, bro, we got work to do. People need you. But if you're up at 5 and then at 6 you turn it back on, you have that hour or 6:30, whatever. You have that hour and a half just to be like, nobody can reach me, and life goes on. I'm okay. My soul weighs more than these messages.
Oof.
And I can just
That was a bar. Hold on. You can't just drop bars. Like, what? Your soul weighs more than these
messages. Yeah, because when you turn on your phone, it's messages you're looking for. It's messages.
It's
DMs.
ones and zeros on a screen.
Yeah, it's DMs, it's text messages, it's WhatsApp, it's people reaching you in the form of messages. Who gets a voicemail? Maybe occasionally. It's messages.
I have not listened. If you've left me a voicemail in the last like 10 years, I did not listen to it. I promise you.
Yeah.
But
So airplane mode really has helped me in the morning. I also have a rich prayer life. Yeah. Like I'm in like almost like my own narrative, my own prayer loop with God constantly. Like there's some sort of like the way you might see people bounce things off me, I'm doing that with God in a way. Like,
You guys have good conversation.
yeah. I can, the morning is the more fruitful one where I can actually talk out loud, but like during the day, like I'll say like on my way walking through the hall, I was like, teach me something today. Like that'll be a prayer, right? Help me to bring out the best in Jay Tyler. That'll be another prayer. Just little things like that. It's not like these extensive conversations. It's more like these little almost notes and nudgings that I give that align my soul. And as the longer and the more I do that, like, man, it's like the scriptures say to pray without ceasing. So that's what it means to me. Like I'm in a flow state of like harmony with who I'm calling my creator. Like, how are you gonna stop somebody like that from being present? And if evil did come up or like if something did go wrong, I'm the first one to remain calm. Like I've always been like that. I don't know. Like if there was violence around me, I would like calm down.
I
don't know if you relate.
I am exactly the same way.
Yeah.
It's funny that you bring that up.
I don't know. Sometimes I think it's like a dark side of me because I can like go into that shit and I can stay calm.
I don't even want to bring this up because I don't want to be putting on a persona that like I be getting into fights like that, but I've been in a couple. And there was this one time where I was in a situation, this is back in like one of my early 20s. I'm in a club, some stuff pops off, one of my boys gets hit. There's just chaos going on around me. And for some reason, I just...
Yeah, bro.
And I could just see everything go. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience.
It's a gift.
And like, mind you, it's like several people fighting around me, and somebody tries to throw a punch at me, and I just, nope.
Really?
I swear
That's some Matrix shit,
I
dog.
shit you not. I swear I thought I was in the Matrix, and I slipped like 3 different punches just from being like very present in the
Very
moment.
present. Yes.
Super present, and
Yeah.
I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I was like, am I Neo? And then I tried to throw a punch, and then the bouncer kicked me out the club. But that's besides the point. For like a split second, for like 30 good seconds, I was like, yo, I'm fully like, I'm 100% in my body right
Yeah.
now. Like, I am not a single thought in this brain is going on. I'm just in my body.
Yeah.
That's an insane feeling. Dude.
It is, bro. It is, and it's ironic that you say in the midst of trauma, right, and chaos, you do it. I do it, because you would think that things need to be good for you to become present, but it's actually heightened, right? Anything in reality that's heightened makes us more present. So it could be traumatic, or it could be like beautiful, right? But all of them are heightened senses, and they make us more present to the world. I just think most people freak out whenever trauma comes, and there's few people that
absolutely.
get calm.
Absolutely, because I think what ends up happening is in situations like that, it's more that it's like amplifying whatever state you currently are in energetically. If you're in a chaotic state energetically, let's put myself back in that exact same scenario, but if my life situation at the time was very like chaotic in and of itself, right? If I was very anxious going into that environment, and I was just super anxious about everything going on in my life. I don't know what's going on with finances. I don't know what's going on with X, Y, Z. My girlfriend's about to leave me. All of that. Had I gone into that situation with that energy, I think that energy would have been amplified, and I would have been in a very like anxious, tense, scared energy. But because I went in kind of just like, I'm just here to have a good time, that was my energy that got heightened. And I was like, all right, how can I have a good time in this fight scenario? Well, by being Neo from the Matrix. And then, no, I'm just kidding. But another thing that I wanted to ask you is, as far as your prayer practices, right? I've gotten into a habit of asking God for things less and just talking to God as if I'm like just chatting with my homeboy.
Okay.
How do you feel? What's your prayer practice look like? Is it a lot of give and take? Is it just a conversation? Are you just trying to listen out?
Yeah.
Or are you trying to receive?
Yeah, that's such a great question, bro. Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to mind is like, how does God speak? You know, like, is it?
And we talked about this. Our first conversation was about this.
Yeah, and we, I think most people listening, it's not audible, right? I mean, you can say that, but it's not going to be an audible noise. So it's going to be some sort of confirmation inside of you. And I don't think I have ever, how Alex was saying he had a nudge like, do this. I don't really get those that much. I believe him, but I've never those sudden like, go right now. But it's all over scripture, right? Where people feel this way and they feel this. Mine is more like a slow confirmation that I gradually accept, and that I feel it. And once it clicks and I know it, I'm like, I heard it. It must be done, right? Yeah. That's the way I listen to God, and that's the first thing that I heard, or that came to mind when you asked me this question. But it's such a dance to me. And I feel like I only hear God when I'm like really seeking it. It's like I gotta want it. It doesn't just come to me. It's like I gotta be asking for it and desiring it. So I'll ask God, speak to me. Probably like if you studied my brain or took apart my thoughts, one of the most frequent words I say is, God, show me. That's like 3 words that I say like the most throughout the day. God, show me, God, show me. So I'm like consistently asking for something. And I'm just believing with faith that—
But you're not asking for something in a specific sort of way. You're just asking for confirmation that maybe your actions are already on the right path. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you're not asking like, God, show me the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
It's more like, God, show me that. Give me the discernment to know that the decisions I'm making are the right ones.
When I say God, show me, it's almost like put my heart at ease with these actions that I'm doing. And if it's not, then put my heart in a different state to actually like not be okay, And you'll feel like this isn't working, this isn't right, or I have so much peace right now. I'm okay if it doesn't work out because I know I need to do this. It's like, God, show me, show me. I feel like there's always like this knowledge. There's this wisdom to be learned from every situation. And when I say, God, show me, it's almost like I'm asking to see what I'm not seeing with my eyes. Like I'm wanting to see the deeper sides of things always. You know. But as far as listening, another thought that comes to mind is stillness and meditation, bro. That is like different for Christians here in the States and stuff in the West, but in the East, Christians over there, or even in other faith traditions, this idea of like quietness and in the form of meditation and emptying your thoughts and that harmony and that peace feeling that you feel when all thoughts are gone and you're just in that Zen state. I don't know if like if God speaks like in English, but I know that peace that pervades my mind is a language of its own. That silence speaks.
I think God speaks in the synchronicities that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like anything that you think to yourself, that's a coincidence. No, that's the odds of that happening were actually so low that I actually think God was directly trying to talk to you through that coincidence that you just picked up on. Like I think coincidences are one of the loudest ways that God can talk to you.
Yeah.
Just random things that you notice and you're like, that's weird. I've seen this person several times and I'm not seeking this person out or whatever the case may be, whatever kind of synchronicities, right? I think that's one of the clearest ways God can talk to you.
But you got to be present.
You have to.
That's
that ties everything back together.
It does, yeah.
You have to be present enough to see those synchronicities to be able to hear what he's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it clicks, like you were saying, once it clicks, then you're like, oh, okay, all right.
Okay, I know.
I read you loud and clear, big fella. My fault.
Yeah. So that's what I like saying, because when people say God speaks, I think just for the normal listener, even to this show, it's like, okay, I'm hearing a voice in my head that's in Oxford English. It's like, I don't think it's like that. I think it's more energetic. It's a feeling in your heart. It's this warm gut feeling even. Like if we say God speaks because we need to put a word to it, but like, I don't think it's like I'm being like downloaded like an American English. I think it's more like something is telling me to do something else and I have to do it. Or something is telling me to stop doing this. Or something is trying to get me to learn something from this pain. A lot of time God, quote unquote, speaks in the midst of pain. That's how us as humans learn. That's how God evidently like called you. Like, it's always like trauma, pain, suffering, where God, his words, if you want to call it that, are spoken.
It's the easiest way for him to get your attention.
Because we become present.
Yeah, immediately.
Immediately.
The second something starts to hurt, either spiritually, physically,
we're stripped.
Your ears are perked. You know exactly what you need to be listening for at that point in time.
That's so good, bro.
I had one more for you.
All right, yeah. Did that answer it? Was that okay?
Yeah, definitely. But I just wanted to get into a little bit of, so you're in the coaching space.
Yep.
And I've seen your transformation, your physical transformation. And I'm still in, I'd say I'm like 80% of the way through like my physical fitness journey as far as getting to my ideal goal body. But obviously the fitness journey never ends. Like it's supposed to be a lifelong thing. The consistency is more what I'm shooting for than anything, like any particular like body weight goal or body fat percentage. But what do you think are the number one fitness practices that you've adopted over time that you think led to the greatest change? Because that's a huge thing for me, is that I've gotten lately kind of like, I feel like I've stagnated a little bit.
Yeah.
And I want to up the ante a little.
Yeah, dude. I know exactly what I'm going to say for this. And my listeners or anyone that's familiar with probably would know as well. But the single biggest, most important practice change is so basic, bro. But it's the food. And I won't even just say food. I just say like consumption, drink, any type of food, just anything that enters the mouth is the best, like for change. And that for me is, talk about synchronicities, is
You were just talking about it on the pod yesterday. I believe Alex was saying that food is the most addictive substance.
That's
the biggest addiction.
That is a synchronicity. And also like this idea of being present. Nothing gets you more present than when you're really hungry. Right? Or when you have to follow a certain regimen of food and you can't just follow the gut and its emotions. And you have to actually say like, no, I'm resisting the alcohol. I'm resisting the fast food. I'm resisting the eating out. I'm not doing that anymore. Like you have to be so disciplined, and then that discipline brings you into the present moment. And so for me, like, I don't want to tie it too much to our prior conversation, but I quickly discovered in my own transformation how emotionally connected I was to food and how that was just making me gain weight, you know? And I would just eat like till I felt good or cause I felt bad, or it was always connected to what I feel. And it wasn't until I understood like macronutrients, proteins, fats, carbs, and I was able to put a number behind everything in a caloric deficit that I just blew through the roof in terms of weight loss. And so that for me was what set me free the most, because now I had discipline, and now I knew what it meant to like lose fat, because that's what I wanted to do, was just get a six pack. So I was like, I know what it feels like to be
that first day where you get to take your shirt off and be like,
I did it.
The six pack is here.
It's
like,
here,
and it's here to stay, because I know what it took to get me here.
Exactly, bro.
That's such a rewarding feeling.
Oh, dude, it's so nice.
So rewarding.
It's so rewarding, bro. And it's like we don't have to get into it, but it's like it comes in slowly. You know, you start with 2, 4, and then for some reason it's just one morning you wake up and you're like,
you're extra dry that morning.
Yeah.
You might not have had like your water before bed the night before.
Something
You're really
happened,
dry
dude.
in the morning. You're just like, wait a minute.
I see 6 rocks on my stomach.
I see 6 of them, and not only that, there's this vein in the V cut.
Yeah.
And
then
the day you see that, you're like, oh, I really did that.
Yeah. That's a beautiful feeling. It's rewarding. And it's more rewarding because abs, like Arnold says, are made in the kitchen, you know? So it's like the chest plate. It's like the centerpiece of like a man. It's like what you see, whatever, statues. It's like, look at those abs. You know, you're not looking at it as deltoids as much as you're like the front, you know? So when you see these abs, it's like the hardest part to get for most guys, you know? Most guys at the gym, they just want to like get bigger and get bigger chest.
That was never my goal. That was never my goal. I grew up skateboarding, so like I always admired like being able to look as like skinny as possible. Like first of all, skateboarding is a lot about your weight. Like how much you weigh ties into a lot on a skateboard. Like you're not gonna be able to do certain tricks off of this particular stair set if you weigh 200 some odd pounds and the second you land on your board snaps in half.
Dang.
So like, I never wanted to be like very big and bulky. That was never my goal in fitness. I always just wanted to be as lean as possible and as strong as possible. I want to be able to do pull-ups as many as I possibly can, and I want to be able to squat a lot. That was pretty much my main fitness goals.
Yeah. And I love that you're a creative and you have fitness. And I was talking about this on my story today because I think a lot of creatives and artists, like, yeah, they'll do like some walking or whatever, something light, play a sport, but none of them are doing like intense, not none of them, but a lot of them aren't doing intense exercise and trying to sculpt their body because they're sculpting other things. They're an artist in other ways. But when you see somebody who's like busting ass at the gym and they're creative as fuck, bro, that's rare, dude. It's rare.
I think it's just, I like to think of myself at least as like, I've been through so many walks in life. Like I was a mechanic for a period of time.
Really?
I was a bartender for another period of time. Like I'm 31, but I feel like I've lived like
I was just a stripper.
15.
That's all I was.
I was one of those too, but we can save that for another episode. But yeah, like I feel like I've walked so many different walks in life, and like I think that's like one of my. if I can leave your listeners with anything, it's like be crazy enough to chase after all of the things that you're passionate about. Like, be crazy enough to go out there and try everything that that you set your mind to. Like, it's gonna make you a well-rounded person. You're gonna have great stories to tell. You're gonna be a great conversationalist. It's just experience life and all of that it has to offer you. Like, be selfish about it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, especially once you get past a certain age, you get your late 20s, early 30s, you start saying, oh, all right, I got to settle down and I got to settle into just this cookie cutter, bare bones life where I'm going to work 9 to 5 and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I might take a vacation once a year for like 6 days. And like, no, even if you're a little bit older, be crazy enough to say, you know what, I want this thing. I'm going to go get it. I'm going to go get it, and I'm going to go get it by any means necessary. Like, that's what it was. That's what the gym was for me. It's like, I really wanted to see how far I could push myself from a fitness perspective, not just being able to say, like, I had the consistency to not let my cousin down, but like, just, I needed to see how far I was willing to go and how far I could push myself.
Yeah.
And you can do that in anything in life. You can do it in any aspect of your life. You want to be a film director? Go film something. Go film it on your iPhone. Be bad at it. Don't be afraid to be terrible at something for a period of time. Look at your first time doing anything and say to yourself, wow, this is the worst I will ever be at this ever again.
Damn. Yeah.
Like, go try a bunch of shit. You want to learn how to play the saxophone? Go do it.
Dude, I'm about to cross 500 podcast episodes and like 150 interviews. And I still remember like just having the desire to start a podcast. And I just Googled it. I found this app called Anchor. They ended up partnering with Spotify. And it was like, it literally took me like 35 seconds to start a podcast. I just did it through that app. And I just pressed record. And I started recording a podcast. And I didn't even know. I was like, hey guys, it's Justin here. Like, I didn't even know what I was doing. But I took that imperfect action and just started.
This whole thing, this whole studio, everything that you see around us, this is all based on imperfect action.
Yeah.
Like, Drew and I, we work in here in the studio all the time. Drew had never picked up a camera up until like 10 months ago. Never. And this is his apartment. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
All of this stuff. I mean, you guys can't see it because obviously you're seeing us, but this camera on the slider is the whole truss that has the lighting. We're looking at ourselves on TVs. Yeah. It's a whole. It was all of this was imperfect action. It was just a bunch of cameras on tripods at first. We didn't even have mics up until probably like the third or fourth recording. Like, just take imperfect action. And I promise you, you're smart enough to figure it out along the way. Like, it's not, nobody knows what they're doing until they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
just
good,
it.
dude. I get people that message me. They're like, I want to start a podcast. Like,
do it.
What do you think? Like, what type of mic should I buy?
Stop asking questions. Just do it.
What type of software? And like, I just press record,
Just
and
do it.
now we're in a studio making great connections, 500 episodes, like just fucking here chopping it up with you. And it's just because you started. I think it's,
that's how it was with me and a camera.
Yeah.
I just decided one day, what's funny? I've been messing around with cameras since 2010-ish. Roughly about like 14 years. Mm-hmm. And I started just because I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a random elective in high school.
Elective? I forgot about that word.
Yeah. I was, I'm going to take this random elective class, and I took film photography, right? And the only reason I took film photography is because I really didn't want to take cooking. Like, I was just like, that's a girly class. Yeah. Like, I'm raising a super macho Jamaican household. Like, that's the kitchen. The kitchen thing is that's fuckery. You're not doing that. And I took this film photography class, and I started really liking, taking photos on my little film camera, developing the film in the dark room, This is old school. You don't even know. Most people don't even know what a dark room is, what it smells like in there. There's chemicals in there you ain't never smelled before.
Yeah.
And I had a teacher for that class, and she used to bust my balls all the time. She would say, "Oh, this is your assignment. I need you to go out and take a portrait of just a friend or family member.
Yeah.
That's your homework for the weekend. Just take me a couple of portraits. We're gonna develop them in like sepia tone or whatever the case may be." And no matter how good I was, because I was always pretty good at it, like I had a knack for it. No matter how good I was, she would look at my photos and be like, "Oh, well, you did this really well. You know, but this sucks." And she'd never, like, no matter how good I got at taking photos, she would never give me any sort of high praise. And so that drove me to like, all right, I'm on your ass now. Like, now I'm gonna really do the thing.
Yeah.
Now, 14 years later, I've worked with Grammy Award winning artists, been on music video sets for, Damian Marley.
Badass, dude.
Like, we've had Rick Ross in the studio. I was with Shaq on Friday. Like, and I can still to this day, sometimes I email her some of my stuff. Like, I've not won like any crazy awards or anything for my photos, but I'm a damn good photographer. Damn good videographer.
Hell yeah.
Have some documentaries that are like pending going to Netflix, and
Fire, dude.
like I'll send her that stuff, and still to this day she'll be like, "This was really nice, but your color grading here is whatever, and oh, you needed to use your rule of thirds here." She will never. The day I win either a Grammy, an Oscar, I don't care what kind of award I get, I'm gonna send her the award and be like, "You're gonna praise me now, goddammit."
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my whole thing. It was imperfect action in the beginning, and the action got more perfect the more I did it. And it's still not perfect. I still mess up from time to time. I still overexpose a photo or here or there. I might, mess up some color grading on a video, whatever the case may be. But just take action, because the action is going to lead you down whatever path that it's meant to.
I'm hearing from today's episode, imperfect action, trying things, taking, following that purpose, anything you're passionate about.
Take risks.
Take risks. I'm hearing the interconnectedness of all things and how every moment is sacred. I'm hearing how to stay present to all of life. I'm hearing about the gift of prayer and connection to God. Yeah. Staying calm within high intense situations. And I think I want to ask you, just in closing here, just because I'll probably be at the studio more, you just touch on the Move Miami, the vision for it, and your role in this vision.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, I want to just thank you for continuing to shoot in this space. I love it when clients come in here and they're able to, feel the vibe and get a lot out of the experience other than just their content. So
for sure.
The Move Miami we very quickly became Miami's #1 podcast space.
So
if you watch podcasts on YouTube, you have seen these brown chairs before.
Yeah.
We had Channing Crowder come in here. He's a former NFL player. And then the next week we saw on his podcast, he had bought the same chairs.
That's dope.
Very funny. Channing, if you see this, I'm sorry that I mentioned that.
Called him out.
The vision going forward is to create, first of all, is to get out of this space and start building creative spaces. Not only, we would like to have our own like larger warehouse space, but the main vision is to be the premier content creation hub for Miami. And then eventually, maybe nationally, internationally, we want to make it
premier content creation hub, meaning like all forms of content.
All forms of content, whether you're doing high production value commercials, whether you're doing documentaries, you're filming Love and Hip Hop, you're filming whatever it is.
Yeah.
If it falls under the umbrella of content creation, when people think about that, we want their first thought to be the Move Miami.
Yeah. Dope.
And as far as my role in that, I am in charge right now of this space that we find ourselves in. I'm in charge of our operations day to day, but I'm also in charge of the creative vision moving forward and where we want to go from the aspect of making sure that things fall into alignment with our overarching not theme, but I guess what I'm trying to say is our vision, our goals, right? Our culture.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Our culture, and just creating a culture in here that's like, we want to make sure that we're producing things that are inspiring, that are in alignment with God, that are,
I think that's dope.
You know, going to give value to people and make the world overall just a better place. Not, you know, I said it earlier in the podcast I was talking about, I am a merchant of the content that people are like sucked into their phones by. But at the same time, like, I want to make sure that if I'm going to be a merchant of content, I want to at least make sure I'm putting positive stuff out into the world. And so for anybody listening, if you're in Miami and you are looking for a content creation space, you can see this beautiful set around me. Judge for yourself if this is where you want to come film, but you're not going to find anybody with a space anywhere near as incredible as, at least here in Miami. We've looked. We're also, you know, increasing our offering. So if you would like for us to come out and build a space just like this in wherever location you are, we will come out and we will replicate this entire system in your office space. If you have a commercial space, if you have, even if it's in your house, we'll come out and we'll build out this entire thing and show you how to run it. Obviously, it's a lot of equipment, but we have different tiers where you can figure out what kind of equipment, how high quality you want to go. Do you want a Netflix approved space? Wow. We can build that. Do you want it to be fully automated? We can build that. So that's another part of our offering. And then being able to offer editing as well. Like, just making sure that this is an entirely done for you system. When you come in, all you need to do is sit down in the chair and talk. Everything else behind the scenes is handled for you.
So good. That's what I love about this spot, bro.
Yeah.
Made me feel right at home, man. It's just like, hey, just take a seat, bro. We're going to clap you in.
We got you. We got the whole thing ironed out. Even now, I don't got anybody working behind the scenes.
That's what I'm saying.
I started, I'm just like, you know what? Let me press the buttons. I got it. Don't even worry about it.
We going to be all right. What a treat, brother. What a treat it is, man, to talk to you. And I'm really excited to see how this connection, this friendship, this relationship, you know, grows over time. I think we align on so many different things, and I feel that calm. Well, you were complimenting me, just that reflective type of, like, the way energy can flow. I feel that in you too. And yeah, man, for all the listeners, I hope you found good value from this show, from me and Jay Tyler, and that it helped you. And you could take from it what you want. I listen to podcasts and I'm like, oh yeah, I really, really like that. I didn't relate to that. I really dig this. It's seldomly you find something that you're just all in on, but there's gems everywhere. And I know that in this episode, there was quite a few. So my brother, I can't thank you enough, man.
Of course, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Catch you guys on the next one. I will be behind the scenes on the next one. So
next week.
All right.
Later.